Thank you for tuning in. I'm Rick Bone with Voskian National Broadcasting. You joined us at the beginning of our coverage of the 2022 Chancellor Election. I'm joined today by the head editor of the Carolina Chronicle, George Graham, the governor of Florida, Paul Von Richter, and VNB's political editor, Magdalena Brandis. Magdalena, Chancellor Nixon's first term has been eventful, hasn't it?
Yes, Rick, it certainly has. Chancellor Nixon's term has seen everything, including two enactments of the Security Act, the president declaring him as acting president for 10 days in the rebellion. In Celtic, and just last week, Chancellor Nixon's approval ratings, however, haven't really taken much of a hit, and he still remains the favorite to succeed president until once his term expires. He remains especially popular in his home province of Snowdonia, where exit polls predict the province will swing in his favor. Rick, let's not forget the opposition. Spicy Sorrows run against him before, and it seems he stands a decent chance of winning. However, the rebellion in his home province of Celtic alongside questions over a new house in the Netherlands may damage his chances. The defense minister, Nikki, doesn't have much chance. However, she would make history as the first female chancellor of Varsk. The emergence of a female candidate will certainly raise the percentage of women voting in this election, as will the amount of Varsk's Jewish population with Plan Comster running again. Last time he ran, he lacked political experience, but since President Antilles has appointed him to many cabinet positions, he now has political experience. The allegations of attempted election fraud may damage his campaign, but that remains to be seen.
Thank you, Magdalena. George, can we get some of your insight?
Thanks, Rick. Chancellor Nixon's campaign has failed to produce a sheet of campaign promises, so he appears to be campaigning on continuing the policies of the Antilles government. None of the other candidates appear to have produced campaign promises either, so this election is less about policy and more about personality. Varsk has frankly never had an election like this before, and I believe it will be fun to watch the results come in, as it will probably be the greatest display of which provinces lean which way politically that this nation has ever seen. It may even set out a trend for which regions vote which way. Rick, let's not forget that this election will also grant party seats in Parliament. Whoever wins will determine the ability of the Antilles government to get their policies through and their agenda done.
Thanks, George. We now go to Governor Ferdinand Paul Von Richter. He has been the governor since 2019 when the city fell to the forces of the Republican president Antilles installed him. He's since been given a Democratic mandate in an election his government held earlier this year, granting a majority in the following on his parliament for the Social Democrats. Thank you for coming on the show today, Mr. Governor.
Thanks for having me, Rick. The situation here in Florida appears to be greatly in Chancellor Nixon's favor. I've worked with him for the majority of his term, especially regarding local matters here. It's certainly been a pleasure to work with him, and I hope that the nation makes the correct decision to re-elect the chancellor, who has the full endorsement of the party and of the Floridians.
Thank you, Mr. Governor. We are expecting the first results to come out shortly. Exit polls appear to be placing Chancellor Nixon ahead of Spicy Sorrow, but not by much. It's just, and we have the first results from the Albion Islands. The province has voted for Nikki. Magdalena, can we get your thoughts on this?
A surprising result indeed. Nikki's only government position up to this point has been that of the defense minister. She seems relatively inexperienced compared to Chancellor Nixon, but maybe the people would rather have an outsider candidate like her. This is possibly also a result of the female turnout soaring in this election.
I'm going to have to interrupt you there. We have some breaking news from Celtic. Spicy Sorrow has won the province with the majority of the popular vote, just like Nikki in the Albion Islands. Things are not looking good for the Nixon campaign so far. Chancellor Nixon has reportedly been in talks with the president about resignation. However, there is no solid proof for these claims. I am going to have to take back those words as we have the results from the Netherlands and the Carolina capital zone. Chancellor Nixon has won each handily, however, the result in his home province has yet to be released. So we will likely not know what the status of the vote in Snowdonia is for some time now. We have the results from Perfudan now. Nikki has won the province with a majority of the popular vote. It appears that Nikki is coming out of nowhere with this stunning victory. Plant is yet to win a province, but we will have to wait and see throughout the afternoon as to whether or not he wins a province. We now have the results for Farron, and Chancellor Nixon has won the province in handily too, with over 70% of the popular vote. The exact numbers are still being figured out, but it is known that Chancellor Nixon has handily won the province. We now have the results for both New Cambria and Volga. New Cambria has voted for Plant, with other voting for Nikki. Plant has got no chance of being elected today, that is for sure. Nikki stands a chance of being elected. The rest of the results for the remaining provinces have now come in. They are as follows. Snowdonia and New Caledonia have each voted for Chancellor Nixon. Freestadt has voted for Spicy Sorrow, and Priestland and Regensburg have each voted for Nikki. This means that both Plant and Spicy Sorrow have both been eliminated, and Nikki and Chancellor Nixon have both progressed to the second round, which will be occurring later today. The votes for round 2 are in. Chancellor Nixon has won re-election by the narrowest margin in Voskian history. He has won the election by 1% of the vote. This concludes our coverage of the 2022 Voskian Chancellorial Election. Thanks for tuning into Voskian National Broadcasting. God bless Voskian. God bless Ukraine. Good night.